addressed you in my opening statement, I told you Meru is in a crisis. It is at the siege. It is now common ground between both sides that there is actually a problem in Meru. It is common ground that the church has been asked to deal with this problem. It is common ground the venerated Jurincheke has been invited to resolve this problem. It is common ground. Even the President of the Republic has been requested to deal with the problem. Our submission, therefore, is that it cannot in good conscience be concluded or argued that the Assembly was trifling with you when it brought the case that it brought before you. If we agree there is a problem in Meru and it must be resolved one way or another, the solution we have asked you, Chair, to provide is a solution provided by our Article 181 of our Constitution. The consequences that ensue in the event you agree with the Assembly are spelled out in Article 182 of our Constitution. And in short, the consequence is that the Deputy Governor assumes over as the Governor of Meru, and he nominates a new Deputy Governor. Luckily, Chair, and this is why I salute the makers of our Constitution, the Deputy Governor was on the ballot box. So we shouldn't be too worried whether you're moving too far away from the choice of the people. There is a reason I now realize why our Constitution requires presidents and governors to have a running mate, and why it says if the solution we're asking you to give Meru is allowed, it is the Deputy Governor. This should allay your fears, Chair, that there is some hidden hand pushing this process so that it can benefit, because it must be taken that the deputy is a comrade of the governor. Chair, we urge you to ask yourself, by law, because this is not often mentioned, we must mention it, by law, Chair, the County Assembly is permitted, should this crisis persist, to introduce the very same motion before you, not anyone, the very same motion after 90 days. But that's not really the point, Chair. What I want you to ask yourself, would it be fair to the people of Meru, if it is common ground, there is a fundamental problem in that county, that they remain held hostage in these circumstances prevailing in that county? It is our submission that it will be very unfair. Are there guarantees, Chair? Because there were many submissions on mercy, on forgiveness, on giving second chances. Are there guarantees you've been given that you can rely and bank? That if you give this governor a new chance, Meru will return to normal? Our submission is none. The governor before you keeps insisting the problem is that someone is sponsoring the MCAs. She keeps telling you, in answer to your questions, that the problem is the ward fund. She keeps telling you The problem is everybody else and everything else except the governor. Whether you believe or not, that's up to the committee. I cannot direct you. But for me, the question is, would it be fair to the Republic of Kenya, to the people of Meru, to our Constitution, to allow this situation to fester? And more importantly, given the things you've seen and heard on both sides, do we even want to take that gamble if we were to assume, for argument's sake, that the aggression against other leaders will persist, that the aggression against MCAs will persist? Chair, your mandate under the law is to consider every one of the 62 allegations separately and independently, not collectively. That's what Section 33 of the County Governments Act, subsection 6 and 7 say, that if you find even one of them to be substantiated. It's very interesting, Chair, because ordinarily the law actually talks of proved. Here you're being told substantiated, not even necessarily proved, whatever the semantics lie. But the law, Chair, is that if you find any one of the 62 violations to have been substantiated, then the Senate in plenary is to take a vote on that finding by your committee, and if a majority of the delegations uphold that finding, then the governor starts removed from office. My colleague, Mr. Jacob Ngwele, will address you on the specific question whether we have substantiated or proved, whichever the word, any one, not two, any one of the 62 allegations. When you retire to consider that question, Honorable Chair and Honorable Senators, we invite you to note from the evidence, it is not in contest whether the appointments were done, the illegal ones. It is whether they were meant to occur, whether appointment letters were actually ensued after those declarations and whatnot. It is not in contest, Chair, whether the allegations against other elected leaders were made. It is not in contest whether the utterances against the Catholic Church were made. What is in contest between the parties is not whether any of the things we have alleged, any of the things in our videos took place, but the meaning to be attributed to them or the context in which they were uttered or done. We take comfort, Chair, in your assurance that this being an inquisitorial committee, the Senate has its own independent translators from Kimeru to English and vice versa, from Kimeru to Kiswahili or wherever. And we'll urge you to ask those translators to tell you from the videos whose accuracy is not in contest between the parties, there was vilification of other leaders, whether there were illegal appointments. Chair, we'll urge you to note, because it's easy to be lost in the legalese I'm a lawyer and I'm often guilty of this, that for virtually every official institution set up by national and county laws, from the evidence before you, the governor has a parallel structure, parallel appointments that supplant the one known to the law. Can MCAs be faulted, whether it is the municipal board, whether it is the hospital, whether, whatever it is, you'll find there is a law. The law has established the official organ to deal with a need of the people or a problem of the people. The picture that has emerged is that for every one of them mentioned in the impeachment motion, the governor came and set up an official parallel system and chose not to work with the one set up in the law, and also chose not to work with the people officially holding the office responsible for that function. And the question, Chair, how long can we, in fairness, expect any county to be run like that? Lastly, because my colleague will address you on the evidence, the county assembly gave the governor notice, 7 good days. She tells you, and it's up to you to give it whatever weight you want, that she was advised. She didn't have to appear before the county assembly, and specifically that if she appeared, she would have been in breach of a court order. She has not shown you the court order that forbade her from appearing before the assembly. But that's not the reason I am raising this issue, Chair. The reason I'm raising it is because there is a fundamental question of principle. The governor has an opportunity to place her defense. Never mind, she says the assembly is already prejudiced. She doesn't. She has now before you documents that were in existence. Even if the order forbade her, which is not the record, from appearing before the assembly, it was still open to her to send her lawyer if there was an order forbidding her. Because the options are you appear either in person or by lawyer. So the question, Chair, is can we in good faith fault the assembly for making the decision it made when the opportunity to place all this material? Can the assembly be faulted for not considering the matters you're now being asked to consider in favor of the governor when the window to avail that material was there? Lastly, Chair, I am not actually worried as a lawyer whether your decision will be legally correct or incorrect. And the reason I'm not worried, all of us, including me, Chair, every day make legal arguments and decisions that are shown to have been incorrect once in a while. At the University of Nairobi, there is a course they teach called Law and Economics. And in that subject, Chair, which I actually teach, we are told the value of a decision, whether by a judge, whether by a tribunal like this one. We are told, secondly, the value of a law whether it's the Constitution, whatever law, Chair, is not what it says or doesn't say. So the value of your decision is not what you will say or you won't say. Scholars of law and economics tell us the true value of your decision is the scheme of incentives for either good behavior or bad behavior that your decision will establish. I very humbly tell you, Chair, that if you let this governor off the hook, the scheme of incentives you'll be sending to other governors, both now and in the future, is that you can engage in whatever number of violations of the law, whatever the nature of those violations, whatever the potential consequences of those violations, but the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, for one reason or another, can let you get away with it. That is what the priest meant by the difference between justice and forgiveness. He was actually addressing on moral and legal philosophy, and I'm not sure he was understood. The matter before you is about justice. It's about what legal consequences should ensue for certain acts and omissions. Chair, allow Mr. Ngwele, because I note we have only 30 minutes, to address you on why we believe we have substantiated or proved, or whatever the word we want to use, not just one, because we only need one, but actually several allegations. Thank you very much, Chair.
Chair, for the record, my name is Jacob Ngwele, and I'll be submitting on the remainder of our submissions. Before I embark on evaluation of the evidence which you have submitted, Chair, it's our humble and most respectful submission that the Assembly side has substantiated all the 62 grounds of violation which the Assembly passed in this impeachment motion against the governor, as were read in the charge sheet, which was read before the governor here. I will proceed and explain how we have substantiated those charges. One of the grounds was the issue of illegal appointments, nepotism, and illegal usurpation of public offices. Of course, the first issue was the appointment of the governor's husband as in county offices. Chair, from the outset, this issue has been trivialized. It has been generalized, it has been demeaned, but it is a very serious issue. What the governor and the chief of staff did not mention when they were being cross-examined, they only went to the appointment of Hustler's ambassador, but they never mentioned that, or they never came out clearly that the issue was about, the critical issue was about the governor in a public setting. In a public setting which was draped with flags, a forum which was meant to launch a person in a public office, did appoint the husband as a patron of a public institution, an institution which has been created by a statute. It is a submission that it is not just a matter of a spouse. It is about a spouse who has been given an illegal appointment and who is exercising illegal powers. You are not appointed a patron of a public institution to be an ambassador of it. You are appointed a patron to exert influence, to exert policy directions on that particular institution. And for that reason, we submit that this issue has been proved, and the issue about the role of the spouses, we need to debunk that particular issue and argue that, as it was raised here, spouses are not appointed in critical public positions. You cannot see a spouse appointed as a patron of Kenya Forest Service, as a patron of Mama Lucy Hospital, these are not the reserve for the for spouses to be appointed. The other issue quickly was the issue of reappointment of Mr. Rufus Miriti as a county secretary. This issue is uncontested. It is uncontested both in the affidavit which are submitted in this house. It is uncontested both in the oral evidence and also the oral evidence of both Mr. Harrison and the governor herself. It is not contested. It is not in dispute or doubtful that Mr. Miriti has been reappointed as a county secretary. It is not in dispute that Mr. Miriti was the county secretary of the previous regime. It is not contested that Mr. Miriti's term came to an end with the tenure of the previous government. But what Mr. Harrison told the court, the Senate, was that the term was extended, the extension was allowed by the TA, then the term is still ongoing, he still has a contract which expires on 23rd of January next year. We do submit that this is one of a very critical illustration whereby the governor has disregarded the express provisions of the law. And the law is that an appointment, including reappointment, must be submitted to the county assembly for fresh vetting. We did submit in our documents 2 decisions of the High Court. One is the one for the High Court of Machakos, and the other one by Justice Murima. In the Machakos judgment, the court said that in case of the term of the CCs whose the tenure of the governor has come to an end, they must be subjected to a reappointment. Similarly, Justice Murima said that if the term of the CS comes to an end with the end of the tenure of the president, they must be submitted. That particular gentleman is still up to date, exercising illegal powers, and that is one of the grounds we have submitted. The other issue, which I'll go quickly, is the issue of the roadside appointments. It is not in dispute, both from the governor's evidence and from Mr. Harrison's evidence, that these appointments were made, both in Timau, Nikubu, and Kianjai. What has happened is that the evidence has shifted. Initially, it was that no pronouncements were made. Then, no letters were given. Now, it has become the appointments were actually made for an organization called Okolea. In the governor's evidence, in our governor's affidavit, that is not mentioned. We do submit that this is a creation. It's what in law we call an afterthought, a smoke screen, whereby you want to shift the evidence from this direction. You are saying, I was not stealing, actually I was speaking. That is what they are trying to submit. We do submit that the evidence we have given in our annexures, all the annexures, and we ask, as my colleague has requested the Senate, let the committee review the transcripts for all those 3 instances, and you will see the governor directing the ward administrators to appoint those people. How do you direct public officers to appoint people to private organization? We do submit that this allegation has been proved and is tantamount to illegal usurpation of functions given to a public institution. The only person who can create public offices, the only person who can hire is the County Public Service Board. Honorable Senators, the other issue, of course, similar to that one, was the issue of illegal committees which were created for municipalities. It is not in dispute that in Meru, they have municipal boards. It's not in dispute that one of the functions of the county government is management of parking and taxis. So the governor cannot go ahead and create parallel structures to manage these functions which are provided for in the 4th schedule of the Constitution. This was a committee with a treasurer, with an organizing secretary, with a chairman, with a secretary. What were they created to do? We do submit that this allegation has been proved, and we invite the committee to review the evidence. The other issue was the issue of incitement and bullying. Incitement and bullying. We do submit that all the instances, the four instances, I'll go first of all, incitement, bullying, vilification of leaders. One was about Honorable Mwenda. That one, the member himself gave evidence here. The video which was produced here showed how the governor humiliated him in public. The governor was there parading him, asking him to apologize, telling him, I'm going to offer you protection. But now the narrative has changed, that it was the members of the public who were asking the member to apologize. Yet the governor herself has admitted she's the one who introduced that subject to the gathering. The other issue about vilification of the senator and the CS and the MP for Tigania, that is very clear in the transcripts. If you read those transcripts, it is on a meeting where the governor was present. And the issues was about this, allegedly, that these leaders were putting pressure on the governor to share power. But what does the governor say? She changes the narrative and argues that the half a bread, half a loaf she meant was that sharing half a loaf with MCAs. Yet the context was that these members want half a loaf of my government. We invite the committee to review that particular evidence. Chairman, I'll ask that, because I'm going through a lot of grounds which you covered, that you add me 5 more minutes in my time so that I can wind up. The other issue, you can see I'm rushing and I'm doing the work some justice.
Order.
The other issue.
Order. Everything that you are speaking to has already been articulated. It is up to you to ensure that you squeeze it into the limited time.
Yes, Chairman. The other issue was about vilification of a Catholic Church. When this matter began, the evidence was not clear. But from the evidence adduced by the governor and also the priest, the matter has been shed clear that there is a dispute between the Catholic Church and the county government of Meru, and a dispute which has now arisen after the governor came into place, where she's challenging the lease which the church is holding. And the governor is saying she's being put pressure to pay the money. What does she do? In a majestic style, whenever you confront the governor, she calls for baraza to fight you, what we call bully pulpit. She calls the meeting, takes down the church so that the church can relinquish their leasehold, which is still valid. We do submit that this evidence has again been submitted. Another issue which is close to my heart, because that is something which is very close also to this committee, about the inviolability of the precincts of the assembly. This Senate has enacted the County Assembly Powers and Privileges Act. That act makes it very clear that you cannot force yourself into the county assembly. It provides offenses which you commit when you force yourself into the county assembly. The governor herself, in Annexure 16, the last clip which was played here, she has said that she was barred from entering the assembly, but she forced herself into the county assembly. The evidence also produced shows that the governor was accompanied by goons and militia. What was played by their side was different from what we played. You will see when she was coming, other than the clip which showed her entering the assembly, there was another clip outside there where she had a group of people. And the posture the governor had taken, the demeanor, the temper she had, meant that the governor was coming for combat in the assembly. And the honorable senators, we do request this Senate I want to direct the Senate to the County Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, more so Section 3, which protects the precincts of the assembly. Not even the agents of the national government, not even the police, not even the NSIS can enter without the invitation of the speaker. But the governor went there by force. Honorable senators, I wish to remind you that of the issue of the January 6th, 2021 in America, whereby the then president of America incited a group, a mass, a group of gathering of people. They went ahead and invaded the hallowed precincts of the U.S. Capitol. They took over, they commandeered the Senate, they commandeered the House of Representatives, and what has happened? The January 6th committee has found that the president needs to be prosecuted by the Department of Justice. Had the president been in the office today, he would have been impeached. It is impeachable. It is an offense under the laws of this country for you to hold gathering outside the gates of the assembly. The law protects even the gates of the assembly. The law provides even the gates of this Senate. You cannot come and hold a baraza outside the gates of this Senate. You will be violating the laws of the land. My last 2 issues is the issue about violation of the Public Finance Management Act. We do submit that this allegation has been proved. The governor has not contested that she made those utterances. What she has done, she has shifted the narrative. She has shifted the story that she was being requested. Yet when you review the evidence, you will see that in that particular meeting, the governor made 4 remarks. One, she said she wants to establish wellness center. The other one, she wants the CCs and chief officers who are going to be recruited to be doctors. Those are policy pronouncements she was making. Thirdly, she went ahead and gave waivers. Waivers under the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act is a preserve of the CC finance. The governor cannot give waivers. Meru has a legislation. Meru has a legislation called Meru County Tax Waivers Administration Act, which is very clear that it is only the CC finance who can provide waivers. The other issue the governor did with that particular issue was directing the hospital to spend money at source. Chairman, I really want to correct the impression which has been created that the Meru Teaching Referral Hospital Act provides for the use of money at source. I'll recommend the committee to read section 14(4) of the same act. It talks about that the funds under the section shall be managed in accordance with the PFM Act. That act recognizes that you have to refer back to the PFM Act. And the PFM Act provides elaborate mechanisms whereby you can use money from source. We do submit that this allegation has been proved. The last of allegation was offenses, misconduct relating to the CCs. What the governor did was, as the assembly, in exercise of its constitutional mandate, rejected 7 nominees. Nothing wrong with that. Within the confines, within the powers of the county assembly, to refuse, to reject nominees. But what does the law provide? The county assembly, the Public Appointment County Assembly Approval Act, section 10, provides that once the assembly rejects the name, the governor is supposed to resubmit. The governor shall resubmit fresh names. The act uses the word shall, which means if we reject 6, you don't go back and abandon the 6 and you work with the 3. No, you resubmit you resubmit the 7 who have been rejected. What the governor did was, she went in the guise of reorganization, collapsed the departments, and appointed 3 CC to be in charge of 6 departments. Our submission is that Section 46 of the County Government Act provides a mechanism in which the governor can reorganize our government. It's not the work of the governor, it is the county executive committee which can reorganize the government. So what the governor did, suo moto, what the chairman was mentioning in the cross-examination, treating the county as a public property, as a private property, instead of reverting the names back to the assembly, you go back and reorganize yourself, yet the law provides that the CC is still intact. The 7 CCs whose positions have not been filled are still serving. So for that reason, we submit that all allegations of misconduct have been submitted. And for that reason, we ask this Senate to recommend, this committee, to recommend to the Senate that the Assembly has substantiated, has proved all the 64 allegations in view of Article 181 of the Constitution. The last point is a question has come about here. A question has arisen even when the governor was on the podium about this time is too short, it's too early, it's too early. My colleague had asked, does the Constitution of Kenya provide temporary impunity? Within 100 days of being in office, you can break all the laws of the land. In UK, Liz Truss, who had been appointed popularly by the party, she was thrown out by her fellow MPs after 44 days in office. Irresponsible actions, maybe that is what they were saying, not my actions, compelled the same party, the members of the House of Commons, to push her out within 44 days. In our Constitution, we don't have a time frame. You can be impeached even the following day. Okay. With those few remarks, Honorable Senators, I submit and I thank the committee for giving us the opportunity. And we also thank, on behalf of our team, maybe on behalf of my lead counsel, we thank on our side, because this is the last time we are taking the podium, we thank the chairman, the honorable senators for the time they have taken to working until 1 a.m. It's not a mean feat. The secretariat, and even for the other side, for the work we have done. And for that reason, we thank you very much and wish you all the best and Happy New Year.
Thank you. You have done 36 minutes. County Governors Council, you have 30 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity and the members of the committee. I will have the 30 minutes shared between myself and my learned friend, Mr. Mwangi. Very recently, honorable members, I had the opportunity to appear before the Supreme Court together with my learned friend, Dr. Muthomi Thiankolu, representing a mutual client on a presidential election petition. And Dr. Muthomi Thiankolu described the petition seeking to overturn the election as shock and awe, because it was hot air based on too much hullabaloo. I am sad today to use the same words against Dr. Muthomi, because we do find the notice of impeachment to be exactly that, shock and awe. In that we have...
Chair, you can't use the word against me. There is no case by me before the Senate. The case belongs to the County Assembly.
I stand
Precisely.
guided.
Shock and? Precisely.
Shock and awe, A-W-E. Those were words used by Dr. Muthomi to describe that petition. I'm only using the same words, borrowing from my good friend, Dr. Muthomi. The reason why I'm saying that this matter is shock and awe is because a very negative and scary picture has been painted against the governor. We all sat here when the governor was being described as the modern day Hitler. And we would have expected that the evidence to be placed before this committee would have confirmed that same picture. Honorable members, you will confirm indeed that there was no evidence to that effect. So that left me wondering, why is the governor on trial? Is it because of our emotions? Is it because of our passion? Is it because of our temperament? Is it because of our mystics? Is it because of our firmness? Is it because of our leadership style? Honorable members, none of this is a ground to impeach a governor. The governor might be emotional, might be passionate, might have a style of leadership that is not understood by many. But even then, and I'm not trying to justify that, is that the ground that was envisaged under Article 181 and Article 33 of the Constitution? Do we have any other ways of dealing with such a situation rather than impeaching a governor? And that's why, in our opening remarks, we were quick to state that we should differentiate between a political weapon and an oversight tool. The MCAs have oversight tools to check the governor, to check the executive, to bring it back on track when they stray. The MCAs have not come before you with clean hands. There is one maxim of equity that says, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Honorable members, when you sat here, can we agree that the MCAs are not at fault? Are they blameless? Have they come before this committee with clean hands? Have they themselves fueled the disagreement in Meru? Do they have their own share of blame to what is happening in Meru? Have they been seen fixing the governor, disrespecting her, putting her in a very awkward situation? Can we then allow these same MCAs to benefit from their own misconduct and have an entire election overturned over incidences where they have been party to. A case in point I will draw the attention of the committee to is when the MCAs intentionally block the governor from accessing the chamber in a day when they have themselves gazetted and invited the governor. The governor is ushered in by the speaker. The speaker allows the MCAs to conduct themselves in an unparliamentary manner. The speaker is not seen in any way trying to control the house. Then they come before the Senate and they want you to find that it was the governor who forcefully entered that county assembly. It would be unfair for us to sit here and assume that the county assembly of Meru comes before you with clean hands. Let's talk about impartiality, honorable members of this committee. Article 50 and 49 of our Constitution is supreme in as far as the right to fair hearing is concerned. The County Assembly of Meru, once it was seized of this motion, was supposed to be a quasi-judicial body that is supposed to uphold impartiality, that is supposed to uphold the right to fair hearing. Can we say really the conduct of that county assembly was conduct enough to suggest that they were in any way impartial? If, for example, today, honorable members, you went to court, and the first thing the judge does is dance how they are going to slaughter you, do you expect any fair hearing before that committee? We watched the MCAs donned in red very early in the morning before they even had the move of the motion. They sang inside the county assembly, chest stamping how they are going to teach the governor a lesson. Can we say that is an impartial committee, that the governor ought to have appeared before and expect justice and expect fairness? I beg to differ. So this confirms indeed that the County Assembly of Meru and the MCAs had a predetermined outcome of this motion, and they did not bother to even interrogate the issues before them. So what then is the threshold that ought to be upheld or met by any person seeking to impeach the governor? Because impeaching a governor is the last resort. Once the governor before you today is impeached, honorable members, it is not just about her removal from office. Going by the recent Supreme Court decision in the Mike Sonko case, the governor cannot even be in charge of any cattle dip committee because she will have been condemned forever. She lacks leadership skills. Are we telling this governor here today that based on the evidence brought before this committee, that this governor, forever and ever, at her age, and with only 2 months of being in office, that she has done so serious mistakes that she can never, ever run for any leadership position? Because once you condemn her and uphold the impeachment, it will be the end of this governor to ever present herself for any of public office in this country. So the framers of the Constitution put a threshold under Article 181, and they used very strong and specific adjectives: gross violations, gross misconduct. So it is not just any violation that qualifies for impeachment, it must be gross. It is not any misconduct that can justify an impeachment, it must be gross. So the question that the committee ought to ask itself when you retire to prepare your report is that, has there been any gross misconduct, any gross violation? Gross is the highest standard of misconduct or violation. It must be very clear. You cannot be looking for this kind of misconduct. It must be very glaring and very conspicuous. I want to submit that there has been no demonstration of gross violation, gross misconduct. So even if the committee was to be tempted to find that there is misconduct or violation, does that become gross? Does the evidence before this committee support the grossness of that misconduct or violation? In criminal liability, lawyers speak about two ingredients that confirm criminal liability. One is what is called mens rea. Mens rea is a state of mind that the person accused of criminal liability must have the state of mind, must have intended to commit a particular crime. But then, criminal liability alone is not proved by a state of mind. The person who conceives the commission of a crime must go ahead and commit the crime. That is what is called actus reus. So those two combined then form an offense. So with only the state of mind, without the action itself, you cannot be held criminally liable. Most of the accusations against the governor are in respect of utterances that have not even been actioned. So even if the committee was to find that the governor has, or rather is guilty of these utterances, were any of those utterances ever actioned to justify criminal liability? I have not seen any action that has been taken by the governor that can justify that liability. Honorable members, if there were any appointments to any office, there would be an instrument of appointment. If there was any misappropriation of funds, there would be evidence of money lost. If there was any intention to benefit the first gentleman, there would be evidence to that effect. Can we then find the governor guilty because of mens rea minus actus reus? The intention without the action. There is no action to accompany that intention, if indeed there was any intention in the first place. The Court of Appeal in the Martin Nyaga Wambora case, which was, I believe, the ever first impeachment motion to go through all the stages, the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal had an opportunity to interrogate.
Counsel, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. So the question that the Court of Appeal sought to give guidance on is what amounts to gross violation as envisaged under Article 181. And they said that the allegations must be serious, substantial, and weighty. So that not any allegation would qualify under Article 181. There must be a nexus between what the governor is alleged to have done and a particular violation of the Constitution or any written law. So then you would expect that of any of the 62 allegations, the County Assembly would pin and compare this action is in violation of this particular law. Have we seen that? We have not seen that. For example, you have been told that the governor has appointed the first gentleman to a public office. One, we must see the public office to which this first gentleman has been appointed to. That would be a violation. So we have not seen that nexus. Honorable members, because of time, allow me look at the issue of public participation. And this is an issue that I really want the committee and beseech you to really spend time on, scrutinizing all the memoranda that have been presented before you. If you carefully go through all those memoranda, you will inevitably find that they were done by one person or a group of persons, so that to the extent that you have similar spelling mistake and typographical errors in almost all those memoranda. If then there is that attempt, you can see the desperation to justify that the people of Meru really wanted the governor to be out of office. Burden of proof. It was incumbent upon the County Assembly of Meru to prove their case to support gross misconduct, to support gross violation. It was not upon the governor to prove our innocence. And that's why your own rules provide for a situation even where the governor is given a right not even to appear before the committee. You would not then just pass a resolution to uphold without interrogating whether the county assembly has met or discharged the burden of proof. So it is not enough for the county assembly to accuse the governor of not having tendered evidence to prove our innocence. It works the other way around. It is for them to prove our guilt because the governor is presumed innocent until proven guilt. I want to yield to my learned friend to address you on one or two issues before sitting down. But then before I do that, you have heard the governor herself plead with this committee that she has tried to make amends, that she had tried to reach out to other leaders, that maybe it was an issue of misunderstanding between her and the other leaders, that the issue at hand is ward fund. And the MCAs came here and denied that fact. But the evidence we brought confirmed that indeed that is the genesis of this problem. She promises that once there is a legal mechanism of dealing with that issue, then there will be no problem. Honorable members, I beseech you to give the people of Meru a chance to experience their choice. If then there is a mistake done, we should be able to judge her with concrete evidence, not based on emotions and utterances. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members.
Thank you. Council, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman, Honorable Chairman. This committee is an investigative committee, and it has a responsibility and guidelines on how to achieve that responsibility. I would not refer this committee to the law. It is sufficiently informed with good experts in the law, but this is a motion under Article 181 and Section 133. This committee is supposed to determine whether the motion before the County Assembly has been substantiated, meaning the allegations availed at the County Assembly and debated, were they supported by cogent and probative evidence so as to be seen to have been proved beyond reasonable doubt. Those charges must meet a certain threshold, which Mr. Mutuma has alluded to, and I refer this committee to Civil Appeal number 21 of 2014. It's a Court of Appeal decision delivered sitting in Nyeri, and I'm not going to analyze that decision for the sake of time. But my Lord, Honorable Chairman, in that decision, the court sets the threshold for determining gross violations of the Constitution and gross misconduct. Gross violations of the Constitution, according to that decision, and it analyzes many other decisions from the Commonwealth, it must be such a gross violation of the Constitution that it makes it impossible for the other constitutional organs in the county or in the country to be unable to function because those provisions of the Constitution have been violated. Honorable Chairman, there is no evidence that there has been a violation of a constitutional provision so that the judiciary in the county of Meru is not able to function, that the governor of the county of Meru has made it impossible for the county assembly to carry out its essential functions. And I ask this committee to look at the evidence that is availed. On the matter of evidence, the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 17, says that the first person to speak appears truthful until the opponent stands to cross-examine. I do not want to analyze the entire evidence, but look at the Hansard and the cross-examination. The evidence that was availed in support of the charge, even on verification, for instance, by Mr. Mweda Inviri, he said he was being asked to apologize on the things he did not know. On cross-examination, and I asked him, you are saying to the governor, some things are true, others are not true. He admitted that there were actually things that had led to the two leaders getting to that position together with the public. Honorable Committee, when the issue of the church arose and the the father came to testify, he said he's not here on matters of the church or verification of the church. He was here on his own person, and he also gave a very particular line of testimony. And he said he has lived in America for over 10 years. He has been racially abused. And he said potentially that's why he is a more sensitive person. Honorable Chairman, that is a very important testimony coming from a witness. And this committee should look at that evidence from that prism of this is not a usual person or a usual citizen for purposes of testifying on the issues that were before, that is a charge before this committee. On the issue of mismanagement of finances, again, the mover of the motion admitted that the county has not lost any money and the governor has not spent any money, contrary to any provision or framework of management of finances in the county. This was an admission by the mover of the motion themselves. When the governor and her...
You have 2 minutes to go.
Has stood up to testify today, a question was asked as to why the governor chose the chief of staff and not the county secretary. And I wish to remind this committee the explanation that was given that the chief of staff has been with the governor in so many areas. And the issues to be testified upon were not only on appointments, but on even those other issues that are alleged in the motion. The most appropriate person and most comprehensive was only the chief of staff who had witnessed many of those things and not the county secretary. The governor was not hiding anything, and she was available for that cross-examination. On the issue of public participation, I would like this committee to refer to the High Court petition in Kiambu, petition number 54 consolidated with petition number 52 and 41. And in that decision, the court indicates that in assessing the threshold for public participation, we look at the issue at hand and what level of public participation ought to have been conducted. This is an issue where at the opening address, we were told this is a governor who cannot be tamed, and she's a result, an undesirable result of an election process. So it became clear at the opening address that the intention of the MCAs were to overturn an undesirable election result. And Honorable Chairman, with that in mind, the threshold was very high for the decision to be made by the County Assembly that the members of the public have accepted after only 2 months to overturn an election result which they had themselves come up with. On 1 minute, Honorable Chairman, I wish to draw this committee to the County Assembly Act on Public Participation. The Meru County has an Act on Public Participation, and the principles set out at Section 4 of that County Assembly Act guides us to that threshold. The members of the county should have been well informed, well educated, and there was no time limit. This was done in a day, but could have been done wronger. There's nothing that limited the members who moved the motion from going all the corners of the county and having more lengthy time to fulfill the principles in Section 4 of that County Assembly Act. Honorable Chairman, I wish to invite this committee to look at the entire evidence that has been given and the cross-examination, and especially our testimonies on cross-examination and the evidence given today. This afternoon, the governor has indicated she is willing to work with anyone. She has tried to bring the county together, and she has not given up. All she has said, and in her words, time heals. Give her one more time, and she'll be able to bring all these people together. But also remind the county assembly that they also need to move the county forward within the framework of the law. If there is any transgression or a violation of the law, the governor has indicated she has not had any deliberate intentions in violating any law. She's apologetic. She has also received wisdom from this committee, especially from the persons who have served previously as governors. And she has, in her words, said she thus directed, Honorable Chairman and Honorable Committee, we humbly pray for you to find that this motion is not substantiated, and it's important that the county assembly, the county government of Meru County is given a chance to run that county and afford services to the people. On the issues of the CCs, the governor said she has reorganized, but
Order.
she's awaiting to...
Order, Council.
Yes. Honorable Chairman, please allow me 30 seconds on that issue because it appeared it's a big issue, and Honorable Senator Madago pointed out on it, and it looks like the governor has just ignored all structures and forms of government, offices of government at the county level, and she decided to run her own private project in form of the government. You allow me just 30 seconds. I explained where the governor was coming from and what she promised is her next stage, that in the reorganization of that cabinet and allocating more than one directorate to one CC, she only wanted the county to move as she prepares to resubmit the names to the county assembly. And that came from her testimony in person and on oath, Honorable Chairman. With that, I do not wish to tire this committee anymore. On this side of the divide, we highly appreciate the sacrifice you have made, and you've gone beyond the call of duty to serve this country. We are highly appreciative on part of my team, and we are very grateful. Most obliged, Honorable Chairman and Honorable Committee.
Thank you. We may all rise. The proceedings of this hearing by the Special Committee of the Senate has now come to an end. It has been a great pleasure for the last 10 days, the last 8 days, to work with you. It has been very exciting that once again we are testing our new constitution, and it works. I must remain forever grateful to Council Mutuma and Co. on behalf of the team of the governor. Grateful to Dr. Mudhomi, Tiangulu, and Co. on behalf of the County Assembly. I'm very grateful to the governor for the cooperation that he has demonstrated. I'm very grateful to all of you, either directly or indirectly. You have contributed to this success. And I want to thank my colleagues, members of the Senate, for the lead that you have taken, the guidance that you have given, the advice that you have given. History is indeed made. Announcement. We are proceeding from here to the hotel that has been electronically sent to you. You will not be expected to sit until 12 o'clock tomorrow, although you'll be at the hotel for consultations. This is to allow the Secretariat to do the usual. Thank you. We are so adjourned.
AJ.